Well, I put my...
Any special arrangements with the attorneys on the bond? Yeah, because I mean, you can't tell, we're only supposed to talk about what's on the agenda. So until both of them, I think might come back in the regular meeting, we're talking about
Okay, this is my seat. Okay, here it is. Figure out here. Okay, I get this. Okay, we'll figure it out. I'm trying to get this little thing to open, and for some reason I couldn't get it to open. Okay, we should be good now.
The Executive Committee meeting of the Caddo Parish School Board will please come to order at this time. And I've asked Board Member Tony Nations if he'll lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand with me, please. Join me in prayer. Gracious God, we gather here today to conduct important business that affects every stakeholder in Caddo Parish Schools. We pray you give us wisdom and guidance as we make decisions that bear upon all concerned. We ask that you continue to bless us. We're so thankful for the just past Easter season where we celebrated your resurrection.
Yes.
We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. If the Executive Committee will please register your attendance here today. Well, it's not showing up.
Yeah, mine just came up.
Oh, did it?
You go to down one right there. Look over. There you go.
I forgot to join the meeting.
There it is.
Okay. Okay. Next item up, we have presentations. Superintendent Glory.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to invite our Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Keith Burden, as well as our Chief Human Resource Officer, Mrs. Lisa Woolfolk. They will come with a presentation tonight entitled Accelerate Caddo, Academic Success for Every Child. As we begin the process of what does a strong start look like for us as we go into not only the summer, but next school year, staff has been aggressively planning around such as we look at ways that we can utilize our stimulus dollars to close the achievement gaps for students. That's an area where staff has been very aggressively planning, and this will be the first presentation, probably of many to come, around things that we will do to significantly impact the lives of our children in our parish. So at this time, I'll let Mr. Burden and Ms. Woolfolk make their presentation. I would note that the presentation is numbered. If we could go through the complete presentation and you note the pages of your questions, staff will certainly be happy to address those at the conclusion of the presentation. And I do that mainly because many of your answers may come in a following slide, so that way we'll just complete the presentation first. Thank you. Mr. Burke.
Thank you. President Albritton, members of the board, Superintendent Gorey, as you just heard, our staff has worked very hard recently to begin planning what this future looks like post-COVID. We know that this is not going to be an initiative that we can launch and suddenly within a few weeks or a few months remedy the effect of COVID-19 on our community. But we do think that our plan is very solid, and hopefully you will think that as well. As Dr. Gorey mentioned, this is Caddo Strong Start. What he has entitled this is 2.0. This is the second phase of Strong Start. We still, though, in this opening, will follow the same guiding principles that we used this fall. The safety of students, staff, and families will take priority. We will constantly work with our partners at the state and regional level in making decisions. We will ensure that all of our students have the opportunity to minimize the impact of lost learning, and we will be prepared to transition, if needed, to 100% virtual. COVID-19, of course, has impacted operations, academics, our staff, our families, but our focus tonight is really on academics and looking at what our plan is to address the story of COVID. When we began as an academic team unpacking this COVID bag, this bag of COVID, we really ask ourselves, what are the data points that we need in order to make an informed decision? Not simply look at this from what do we think, but what do we know? And what we actually did is we drilled down to the data that we had available to us on all of these 6 major points. We looked at enrollment because a very small school may be more significantly impacted by COVID-19 than a very, very large school. Also, a school's percentage virtual enrollment is impactful. We also looked at instructional minutes, those that they had on a day-to-day basis, as well as those lost. We looked at the professional development that was offered to help teachers transition into virtual learning. And looking at professional development, we were interested in, first of all, what was offered to the teachers, what did they participate in, what was successful, what was not, what was their attitude about it when they left. Also, the number of quarantine days that were impacted. How many unfilled subs did we have in the building? And many times in this building and across buildings around this district, we shared staff with each other to cover classrooms that were unfilled by traditional means. We also looked at our literacy data. When our students were walking in the door, what was their rate of mastery, and then as well as what did it look like when we compared them at mid-year. And then our staff, as we were walking classrooms, what did we see? What were the struggles that our teachers were having? What were the struggles that our families were having learning? And we made adjustments along the way. But we took all of this into our analysis. We took that data and we created a very lengthy spreadsheet that provided us a quantitative look at the effect of COVID. And then from that district dashboard, we began building a plan that would lead us to ensure that we were providing the steps needed to promote equity to the families and to the schools that needed it the most. Our Accelerate Caddo plan is built around 3 pillars. First of all, we do not need to go out and purchase new materials. We have high quality materials now. So you're not going to see us spending lots of money on new software or new workbooks or new remediation materials. We simply believe that we need to better use the high quality materials that we have now. Second thing that we believe is we need intentional structures. And the last thing that we need is effective instruction. So if we dig into these a little bit, any high quality material that a teacher uses from this spring to this summer to this fall must be highly aligned to our standards. We cannot go out because, let me tell you, I'm sure Dr. Gorey has mentioned, but our staff is receiving phone calls almost every hour from a vendor because they know there are massive amounts of dollars coming into districts. And so vendors are wanting to ensure that we see their products. But we're not going to jump on any bandwagon because we do feel our Tier 1 curriculum is what is needed. Second of all, we want to make sure that the content's delivered in time when a student needs it and understands it. The other part is in the intentional structures is, first of all, this is accessible to all students. No matter your zip code, no matter your level of understanding, your level of mastery, we want to make sure that you have access to what is needed. Also, the core instruction time is sacred. We do not want to pull students out and pull them in small groups and begin remediation programs. We want to actually give them more time in front of a teacher, with a teacher that's uninterrupted. And any extra time that we can give a student, we know is high dosage. The last pillar that our plan is built on is effective instruction. And effective instruction is not built upon a guess or a gut feeling. It's built upon data, which means we need to know before this school year ends students' strengths and their weaknesses. Because if we know that, then we can plan and train effectively to be able to interact with students as we should. The instruction should not be provided by a computer. That instruction should not be provided by outside sources. It should be provided by a highly effective and highly trained teacher. So if you look at this roadmap that we go down, we do not believe that we're going to solve the impact of COVID-19 within a few months. Many of us still will be talking about the impact of COVID-19 academically on families for years and years to come. Because of that, we are going to be very intentional in focusing on 3 areas. First of all, lost learning. What opportunities for learning did students miss over the past year? Also, what did we fail to prepare them for, especially around the prerequisite skills to be successful in next year's grade? And lastly, what are the social emotional impacts that we need to prepare for? So as we begin our journey, we're focused on 3 things. What are the resources that we have available to us? How much time do we have available in schools to use those resources? And how can we build the expertise of the teachers and leaders to be successful in what they do each and every day? The first item that we will bring to you at Dr. Gorey's direction has been, we are looking at social emotional resources that are available to be able to assist our families, our students with the challenges that they have experienced during this past year. We will bring you an SEL program that is a strong curriculum. We will bring training to all teachers and staff members so that every child from kindergarten pre-K all the way through 8th grade will have that daily interaction with adults who are helping them be motivated, build their self-esteem, drive a commitment in their work, have that interpersonal awareness, that decision-making and that empathy in order to be able to handle the struggles that they are going to experience. We know that prioritized time is important, so we will ensure that throughout the week there's time set aside for our teachers in order to train and be able to implement our SEL program. And whatever curriculum we bring you will be built around national standards, and those standards are the CASEL standards. So this spring, Accelerate Caddo begins right after testing. As soon as testing is completed, our Accelerate Caddo will launch. If you're in elementary or middle school, you're not going to see a lot of changes because the only thing that we're going to ask our existing teachers and students to do is, first of all, if we do not have the most accurate diagnostic data of your students, we need it. And we're going to ask those teachers and we're going to ask those students in order to complete any diagnostics needed this year so that we have an accurate picture of the students' strengths and weaknesses before they leave. As I mentioned earlier, we need that so we can train the teachers effectively this summer. If I don't know where you were when you left me, how in the world can I train to be able to build a model for you or an instructional plan for you when you arrive in the fall? So at our elementary and middle schools, you're going to see that we will allow our elementary principals to adjust their schedules to finish testing. Now, we're not adding additional tests onto students. Don't think that. These are our diagnostics that we would normally give throughout the year, but we have a large number of students because they were either virtual or had a high rate of absenteeism that we don't have good data on. And so because of that, we're going to work very strategically in order to get those students back on our campus so that we can get that solid data. Our middle schools, the same thing. We will continue running our current schedule, complete the diagnostics, and then once we have that data, we will group that, and then we will provide the training to the teachers. The high school is going to maintain their current schedule. The only difference is the state recognized that if a senior this year, because it is such an unusual year, fails an EOC course, typically that student would not graduate. But the state has said if that student fails the course, we may bring that student back after they receive the EOC results, and we can provide them up to 20 hours of targeted instruction, and if they are successful in that 20 hours, we can graduate that student on time. So we're going to ask our high schools to focus on that endeavor so we're graduating as many seniors as we possibly can. So between now and the end of school, just to sum it up, the only thing that we're asking our teachers and our principals to do is gather more data. You're going to hear a lot of districts begin after-school programs. We really think that's not wise. Our teachers have reached a point of exhaustion. Our families have reached a point of exhaustion, and adding more at this time we don't feel would be very productive. We still, though, have a great number of middle and high school students failing. So what we would like to do is identify those students that might possibly fail, and instead of making them go to summer school, let's bring them back on our campuses on Fridays. Our middle and high school are on a Monday through Thursday schedule. Let's enforce that those students must come back to our campuses on Fridays. They can get one-on-one time with our teachers. Our teachers can allow them the opportunities to turn in lost assignments or missing assignments and get those grades up. We will begin grade recovery time on April the 16th. That will continue through the end of school. We will run bus transportation for those students. We will feed those students during the day. And the bottom line is those students, if they take advantage of this time from April the 16th to the end of the school year, they will pass. We can also use that data with our diagnostics, with our grades, to determine if they still are failing any promotional decisions we make through SBLC. Our high schools will continue, as I mentioned before, with the required hours for seniors who have failed the EOC. So that takes us to now the summer. Our summer is going to be an intensive summer program with targeted students. And what I mean by targeted students is we're not going to restrict a school from having all of their students back if they choose to. If they have the staff and they have the room to have 99% of their students come to our summer program, then we're going to support them and make that happen. But we know that some of our schools might be challenged with not having enough staff members to teach students this summer, because this will be on teachers' free time, even though we will compensate them. But some teachers will decide not to do that. And we also know some families are not going to choose to send their students to an optional program. So what we're going to ask our principals to do is target those prioritized students. If I'm an elementary principal, I would be most worried about my second graders now. Think about those second graders who are going into third grade. When they were in when they were in kindergarten, that's when the onset of COVID hit. This year, then they're in first grade during this past year, and now I'm getting ready to let them go into second grade, and in third grade, they're getting ready to take the LEAP 2025. So that's going to be very impactful. So we've got to make sure that we're prioritizing. We're going to focus on literacy and math, and we will train our teachers to do three things: diagnose them, strategically group them, and provide targeted instruction. This will be face-to-face teaching. It's not going to be tutoring. It's not going to be remediation. It's going to be targeted instruction with groups of students based upon the data that we have about them. For our high school, we're going to target ninth graders because that would be a grade level entering high school that should be most concerning. It's going to have a dual purpose. First of all, it will give us an opportunity to do something our principals have always wanted to do, and that's have an established freshman academy where we bring those ninth graders onto our campuses early, and we give them time on our high school campus as a ninth grader before any other high school students are there. They can orient them to their schedule. They can make sure that they understand what their rotation looks like, what the school rules what the school rules look like. But then the second part is going to be powerful, especially around mathematics and those students who are going to take Algebra 1 as a freshman. And that's making sure that we're building upon those prerequisite skills so those students are going to be successful. We still will have to offer credit recovery this summer. We offer that every single year anyway. One of the things that we are proposing, though, and Dr. Gorey has approved, is waiving the $250 fee for families. So no more will we charge at all any families to come to summer school. When we used to call it our fee school, now it's free. Anybody that wants to come can come and earn those. We will have to increase the number of facilitators at school sites simply because we know that we're going to have more and more students who possibly may have failing grades. They've lost credits that they're going to need to recover over the summer. And we will continue our EOC remediation program for those non-seniors who need assistance. So that's through the summer. Summer is going to train teachers in June. We will bring back students for a period of about 10 days in July. So we have a 2-week intensive time with our students from pre-K all the way through 12th or 9th grade. Principals and their teams are the ones that determine the kids who they will target. We will provide bus transportation, we will provide food, and it will be a face-to-face option from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. For the fall, I'm very, very pleased to be able to tell you we will have a traditional 5-day face-to-face return to school initiative this fall. We want our students back. We're opening the doors, and we're returning, hopefully, to full implementation of traditional face-to-face instruction. But one change that we are making at the elementary school, for years we have advised principals and leadership teams to have an increased amount of time in ELA and math. Many of our schools have taken us up on it and have asked for support in how to do it. Others are simply still running the schedules that they ran 10 years ago. We're changing that this year. We will mandate, especially with the impact of COVID, that teachers provide additional time in ELA and math for all students in elementary schools. This is not going to be just something for the zone. This is not going to be something for just CR and UR schools. This is going to be all schools because all schools have been impacted at some level or not. When you're thinking about magnet schools, there are opportunities for magnet schools in order to accelerate learning that we've not been able to achieve this past year because of either poor enrollment or increased virtual school attendance. And so because of that, we want to increase that time in reading and math. Now we know we still will have some students wanting virtual instruction. So we will offer that. And that registration will begin this April, on April the 12th, and parents must register between now and the end of school. If they register for virtual, they have to commit for one full semester. And we will, that student will be assigned to their home school, and we will staff them accordingly with teachers from their school, or if we have a small number across a regional section of schools, like a pod arrangement as we did this year. I really do not think, though, that we're going to have a large number of virtual students at all based on what the data is appearing to be now. All required assessments will have to be completed in person. So if I'm selecting virtual, I have to come to school to complete my diagnostics. I have to come to school to complete any test that's required. And I can't stay home during instruction and come up to school for fun activities. If I'm virtual, I'm virtual. If I'm not, I'm not. So we were going to make sure that we enforce that. Our middle school will also return to a Monday through Friday schedule. It will be a traditional face-to-face, and we will double block all ELA and math classes in 6 through 8 schools. That will provide students with 99 minutes every day of math, 99 minutes every day of ELA, with no impact on electives. Now, this will cause us to increase staff because if you're increasing the number of minutes in math, you're going to have more math teachers. And so we know that we're going to have approximately 50 teachers, additional teachers at the middle school level, and Ms. Wolf will share a part of her presentation, the intensive recruitment campaign that they have begun. We are committed, and Dr. Gorey has approved, that we will maintain this double block schedule for 3 years, because we certainly don't want to change every middle school schedule, get teachers acclimated, because if I'm teaching 50 minutes now, and you're expecting me to now teach for 99 minutes, how I plan, the resources I use, what my daily schedule looks like, is going to be a challenge for me. And so we don't want to pull that on teachers for 1 year and then suddenly take that away from them the next. So we are committed for doing this at least 3 years. This is an example schedule of what a current middle school schedule looks like now. You see, in a lot of our schools, we do have 115 minutes in ELA, but a lot of our schools only have 55 minutes in math. They need at least 70 to cover the bare minimums of the curriculum. So what we are proposing is double blocking that, so you will have 99 minutes without any change of a child's schedule. In middle school, we will offer virtual instruction as well. Those families will have to register on April the 12th. They must commit for 1 semester. They will maintain their assigned school enrollment, but their teachers will not be their teachers. If I'm a middle school student and I'm signing up for virtual instruction, I will receive my instruction at home by a teacher virtually through Elevate K-12, one of our instructional partners that we've used to fill vacancies for years. We simply cannot pull, because of the true need of having face-to-face teachers in our middle school level, teachers out of those classrooms in order to teach students virtually. So because of that, we will supplement with Elevate K-12 teachers. One thing that's going to be very important that we ensure that our constituents know is if I'm selecting middle school as a virtual student, then there's no face-to-face extracurricular activities, no face-to-face clubs, or no face-to-face athletics. If I choose virtual because I'm worried about my health, then I can't come to dance line practice with peers on Thursday afternoons. I have to be able to be virtual. And I'm also going to ensure that we have those students come back face-to-face in order to complete all assessments. For high school, we'll also continue a traditional Monday through Friday face-to-face instruction. Anyone that's wanting virtual at the high school level will be enrolled in the Caddo Virtual Academy. We have that established. It's an A-rated high school. We have the staff. There's no reason why we should supplant virtual instruction at sites where we have an accredited school to provide that. So all families must commit for 1 semester and will be enrolled in the CVA. CVA will transition from a hybrid model where they have some students coming in and having small group work face-to-face to a 100% virtual model, and there will be no face-to-face extracurricular activities, clubs, or athletics there as well. Any high school student that selects virtual must come on campus to complete the ACT, must come on campus to complete the EOC coursework, or tests like Algebra 1, English, or U.S. History. Our staff, our teams will provide guidance, and this is just a snippet of the guidance that we're presenting to our principals, just walking them through the next steps what their thought processes should be as they plan for the spring and the summer and the fall. We will have this as you see, as a Google Doc, and it will be live. So as we make any revisions to it, our teams will be able to access that. With that, that ends the academic portion of Accelerate Caddo.
Let's let Ms. Woolfolk come and present, and then we'll just take all questions at the end of the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burton.
Mr. Albritton, board members, and Dr. Goree. I'd like to share our recruitment and retention to support Accelerate Caddo at this time. Our first priority will be to focus on recruiting the highest quality candidates to apply for the summer programs. We know that our teachers and our paras will go through extensive training. So in order to do that, we want to be competitive to attract increased candidate pool for the summer. We will go from $25 an hour to $40 an hour for our teachers, and from $15 an hour for our paraprofessionals to $24 an hour for them. Understanding nationwide trends have shown a decreased pool of teachers in the workforce. We were on a Zoom with LSU today, and they shared with us it has gone from critical teacher shortage to a crisis due to COVID. So we must be aggressive in recruiting. So to set Caddo apart, staff is recommending the following incentives. For our new hires, $1,000 signing incentive. All new teachers payable on the first pay cycle after hiring. $2,000 per class period or section. For example, if the math teacher is teaching on a 7-period day, they could have up to 6 periods being compensated. If they were on a block schedule, it would be $4,000 for a block class. Example, they could do up to 3 blocks per day. We have a critical shortage of math teachers nationwide. But to address this, what we would like to do is certify teachers who teach middle grades, grades 6th through 8th math and or Algebra 1, or high school EOC math and Algebra 1 and or geometry courses by section, and are rated highly effective or effective proficient. They must be the teacher of record. We need to be aggressive in our recruitment area for new hires. For our current employees, when we look at our retention, we know that we lose 50% of our teachers in the workforce, as evidenced in our workforce report from the LDOE. So we would want to also compensate our current math teachers. So $2,000 per section, the same. If it's a 7-period day, they could work up to 6 periods of math, teaching math, and be off a period. Or up to 3 blocks, for example, with $4,000 per block. The criteria would be the same, and the teachers would have to be rated highly effective or effective proficient. And these are our math teachers in grades 6th through 8th, math or Algebra 1, and high school EOC math, Algebra 1, or geometry. Recruiting goes beyond human resources and touches every employee in our district. So to recognize our employees who refer candidates to our district, we would like to institute a referral stipend. We also know when we have exit surveys of our teachers leaving the district, it's not about always the money, it's about relationships. So what we're proposing is that $500 stipend to any Caddo employee other than administrators who refers a candidate that is ultimately hired to teach qualifying middle or high school courses and completes a full semester would receive a compensation of $500 at the end of the semester. We would have specific criteria where they would build a buddy relationship with that teacher, help them navigate any questions they may have to help them and build a relationship to get them to stay in Caddo. An additional $500 to the referring employee referenced above if the referred candidate hired to teach qualifying middle or high school courses remains for the entire school year, payable at the end of the second semester. We know in our exit surveys, one of the things that was cited was they didn't feel a part of, or they felt alone. So by establishing a buddy partnership, not a curriculum mentor, because we're going to provide those, but someone that's just a buddy that's a seasoned veteran teacher or employee in the system that could help them navigate and answer some questions. And if they don't have the answers, be able to refer them to someone on staff. Current recruitment efforts include a partnership with Graham Teach. It's a partnership where Grambling State University has a one-year aggressive plan to get people certified of those paras that have an associate degree. We're working on that. They have to have the associate degree in education, so we're working through that one. We're happy to announce that the LDO has approved us to expand this year, for next year, our Caddo Teaching Academy for grades 4 through 8 in core subjects, ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies. This is pending Bessie's approval on, I believe, April 20th. So we've gotten it past LDOE and have their blessing. So now we're just waiting on Bessie approval. We have extended our enrollment to May 15th, now that we have this authority to expand it. We don't have as much of a shortage in the elementary grades. It's mainly middle and high, so this will help us with the upper elementary and middle school. Also, we're creating a Caddo Diversity Task Force to develop additional strategies for recruiting minority candidates in the middle grade subjects. One thing that we noted in our Louisiana Workforce Report, we need to have more teachers that look like the students that they teach. Our brown teachers are underrepresented with our Hispanic and African American teachers. So we want to aggressively see what can we do differently to address this. Recruit non-education majors, those focusing on math and science, those that have a degree in math or science but have not traditionally wanted to teach. Also working with military liaisons to share this information in the hard-to-staff areas, as well as our ROTC instructors. There's a program with the state, ancillary math for professionals, and trying to get those people that meet the criteria to look into teaching. And with this aggressive recruitment plan proposal, we're hoping we can attract some different people to teach in our classrooms. We're continuing to appeal to LDOE for alternatives to praxis to demonstrate competency for participation in an alternative certification program. We have some excellent middle and high school teachers that just cannot pass the praxis. They miss it by 1 to 3 points. So we need to look at other ways of getting those people certified, because one test should not determine their whole certification. So these are some things that we're doing to aggressively address our critical needs area.
Thank you very much. At this time, Mr. Burden and Ms. Woolfolk will be available, of course, for any questions that you may have. A couple of things that I do want to point out before they actually come and answer your questions is that when we talk about our plans for next school year and we talk about the virtual models, we do appreciate that we do have to have those offerings. I do want to stress, and I think Mr. Burden did say this, but want to stress that this will not be synchronous instruction in the respect that we will not ask our teachers to teach in-person students at the same time when they're teaching virtual learners. All of our virtual learners will be taught in a total virtual setting, as well as our face-to-face model will be in a complete face-to-face model. I do want to add to that, with the incentives that we're offering to attract and or to keep our secondary math people, that's our middle school, as well as that algebra and geometry teacher is really in demand for what we will need to be successful with double blocking math next year. If you do the math, even though we're paying that by section, if you're teaching in one of those areas, a math teacher could earn as much as $12 additional thousand. And if you're new to the district, since we're paying that $1,000 stipend to anyone that's new to the district, add that $1,000 onto that as well. So we are looking to be very aggressive in what we do to attract those math educators and all educators to the work that we do in our system.
Dr. Gordon, if I could add one thing, as well as push those experienced teachers who possibly are only teaching calculus or Algebra 2, some of those advanced courses to our juniors and seniors, push them down into those courses with freshmen like Algebra 1, where those students can benefit as well.
Okay, I'll start with Mr. Rochelle on questions.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I would like, you know how we get the draft of the school calendar and it says the first day of the year, you know, when the teachers report and all that. There's a lot of dates and periods of time that are laced all the way through this. I believe that would be a good, to lay that out so that somebody can see you know, if I'm going to do this, it's here. If I'm going to do this, it's here. It would make it much easier because there's dates and times laced all through here. I would like to see that. I do like the dropping of the $250 fee. On page 23, can you explain the electives on that one, exactly how that elective is going to be used? That's page 23, that's middle school schedule, because we've gone from current to the proposed. There's the elective 48 minutes. How is that going to be used again?
We're not changing the electives. There's no impact on the electives for a middle school student. The only thing that we're doing is reducing the time from 55 minutes to 48 minutes during the day. So if I'm taking PE and I'm taking band, I will be able to go into PE and band 2 next year. So the additional time that I'm getting in math is not causing me to lose an elective.
I think one thing, too, to add is that we're currently running a 7-period day at the middle school, whereas our proposed schedule will be an 8-period day. So
Okay,
that's just what you did. That's the difference. And
There
if you
it is
look
right
at
there. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so it's 8 periods, because I'm sitting here thinking, well,
It's 8.
there's a time slot here that's okay, that helps me understand. Wonderful ideas here. I don't see any budget numbers here of what the impact is going to be to accomplish all of this. Where are those numbers?
So staff will have those numbers for you, and that'll be a specific attachment that we'll get to the board before you vote on this at your next meeting. I remind the staff that the advantage is that these are all stimulus dollars, so we do have the resources certainly to cover all costs associated. But we
Okay,
will bring those.
So this is stimulus dollars that we're
All
going to be
stimulus
able to do
dollars.
this, and this is a one-shot deal.
Right, and that's why we build a lot of this work around 3 years, because we do know that we can sustain the work for 3 years. And everything that we're putting out to principals and to the community really speaks to this schedule as a 3-year adoption. So this is what we're committing to for 3 years. I'm not at all concerned about committing to the people, because we know in a large urban system like Caddo Parish, we're never going to have the number of teachers we need. And we hope to have them, but again, we know that we'll be able to absorb the teachers if we're unable financially to continue this in 3 years.
Okay, so we're going to allocate the stimulus funds and hold them basically in reserve to make sure
Absolutely.
that we can accommodate
There-
these programs
There
for,
are 3 different, for each set of funds, there's a separate timeline. For instance, the
Okay, not aware
ESSER
of that.
3 funds that were just released, we don't have to spend those dollars until 2024.
okay,
So we have to budget for them now, and we have to plan for them now, but I think it's very wise that they did not expect districts to create quickly plans and spend millions of dollars without having time to have conversations such as we're having now to budget appropriately and look at what our challenges really might be in the fall and spring even of next year.
okay. I believe it's imperative that as we finish this and get it approved, is that it be imperative that we notify everybody, this is a 3-year deal. This is only accommodated by the stimulus dollars that are coming to us. Obviously, it'd be great to be able to continue it, but the dollars on this are going to be astronomical. I
Oh,
can see
they're up there.
that.
Yeah, they're up
Yeah,
there.
okay. That was it. Thank you.
Dr. Benson?
Yes, sir. Mr. Burton, I was looking for the page. Can you talk about the freshman academy again for me? I'm sorry, the page.
Yes, sir, it's page 25. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me back up. It's page 19.
Okay,
We will invite every incoming ninth grader to come to school early for 2 weeks prior to, and to Mr. Rochelle's point around, about the calendar, what we are wanting to do, we're building these schedules around having school start at, I think, August the 18th. 2 weeks prior to that will be when our sessions end, because we want to give our staffs a 2-week buffer between our summer sessions and start of school, just for planning and to be able to get their classroom to get a break. And so we will bring all of our freshmen back for a 2-week intense period at all of their home high schools.
okay. Okay, and on page 24, you had mentioned that some organization was going to provide the virtual instruction. What organization was that?
It's Elevate K-12.
Okay, okay.
It's a partner that we have now that provides real live teaching, but that teacher is not in Caddo Parish. That teacher might be in Atlanta, might be in Dallas, but they are interacting with students live via computer.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm concerned about quality and continuity. Since we have this infusion of dollars, however much there'll be, is there any way we can use some of that money to pay our Caddo teachers right here? I guess I'll ask for that consideration.
Actually, we agree with you, and what I'll tell you is that this is a buffer in the event that we can't find the people.
Okay.
What I will tell you, and I'll let Mr. Burton speak, because he works very closely with him around some of the insurances that we have for quality. But our goal would be, if we could find the people, to find those people. One of the things, even as we look at an initiative around literacy, and the state has even provided us with resources around literacy coaches and some things that we're doing. But what we're having to do is do clusters of school versus each school, because we just don't have the certified personnel to meet some of those needs. And what I remind you, Dr. Vince, is we're adding, 50 people at the middle school? So that's going to take up a lot of people. Our goal, though, is to get people, but there are some insurances I'll let him speak to with K-12 in the event.
The greatest challenge that we also saw is if we do a really good job with the first semester and we have an influx of students returning back to us, that's going to cause a scheduling and staffing nightmare for that principal. Chaos is what it would be. And it's also going to impact those students that have returned face-to-face. We have had this partnership with Elevate K-12 for many, many years, 3, I want to say. They use our curriculum. We have access to their teaching, so our principals see their teaching at all time. So this is not going to be a foreign teacher teaching a foreign curriculum to our students. Right. It's going to be Caddo content that we will train and we will supervise and coach.
Yes, sir. I'm happy to hear you all are conscious of that piece. I also wanted to say on page 24, I really want us to think and reconsider punishing those who opt to go virtual, not to be involved face-to-face extracurricular, because some students may choose, hey, I like to learn, I like this computer deal, and by sheer nature of our policy, we will simply exclude them from opportunities to just participate, and also rob them of the social interaction that we've all been talking about. So let's strongly consider that. And also the ACT, I didn't see anything in here in regards to ACT prep, because we know that's the holy grail. So let's just consider that. Those are just comments, and we can talk later.
Certainly. Yeah, we can certainly look at that ACT. One thing I'll tell you as we looked at this, and even as we surveyed and visited with parents, teachers, and coaches alike, if the purpose for being virtual is to protect you from the virus, and God knows we respect that, How is coming to school and participating in sports agreeing with that? I mean, because it just does, those don't add up. Because you're putting yourself in the same environment that you would be in if you were in a classroom.
Yes, sir, I would say, Mr. Superintendent, with all due respect, it's about choice. Just like the CDC guidelines say also in a public setting, you still should wear a mask, and we weren't following that. So I would say let's go with choice versus our policy excluding. You follow what I'm saying? And some folks, when I was in graduate school, I actually liked working independently. So let's just consider it, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Little?
Thank you, President Albritton, and thank you both, because and all others involved, because I know this was a tremendous amount of work, and to put this all together. I have 4 questions, if you'll indulge me, and your answers can be as brief as you'd like. Some of it we've touched on before, but just to clarify, the freshman academy that's mentioned on page 19, it sounds as if it's for all, but is it going to be mandatory? Because I imagine some families have already made plans, and some families may feel like their children are operating at a level where they may not require being leveled up.
We want to provide the opportunity for all,
Okay.
but we will not mandate it.
Okay.
No, summer is their time.
Okay. Second question, we staggered starting times this year to help avoiding maybe clusters of crowds. Next year, are we going back to standard starting times?
The only staggered schedule we will have will be at our pre-K and kindergarten to
Okay.
stagger their entrance. 1st through 12
We'll return.
will return to a normal calendar.
Okay. And then, let's see, on page 16, where they talk about Friday, instead of doing a summer remediation, we will have instruction on Fridays, live instruction for those who need it. Currently, our teachers in middle school and high school on Fridays, they're delivering virtual content, although sometimes it's prepackaged and they have access, the students have access to it asynchronously, if I use that term correctly. But the teachers are also available for questions on those days. Are we now going to task those teachers with both teaching virtual content and in-person content on Fridays? Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you let me jump in on that one, yeah. So I've had this conversation with several principals, and we will not overburden our teachers in that respect. I do think also parents, teachers and principals are having conversations now too about that same week, maybe some of our students who are failing, returning to in-person learning. And you're seeing a lot of that too. And a lot of the conversation now is about we really want to see the child pass, so let's bring those students back. So I do think a healthy alternative to the Fridays is them returning Monday through Thursday. And that's what you see quite a bit of happening now.
Okay.
Right, but again, we have certainly had that conversation, and we don't want to, and you're correct, many of our teachers are doing the virtuals, they're doing the office hours and things. We don't want to disrupt any of those processes. But in some situations, we got some of those teachers that are like, if I can get them in here on Friday, bring them on.
Okay. Thank you. And then finally, and this is just really a point of clarification, and maybe it's best directed towards Mr. Howard or someone else, but as I understand, the CARES Act and HILS Act funding is primarily for remediation that's COVID-related, academic remediation, and that's how we're able to cover the additional staffing incentive in this arena, but it wouldn't necessarily apply for something like the HEROES supplement, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that distinction.
One thing I think I do want to add, too, is that Ms. Woolfolk shared, is that we have certainly gotten aggressive with what we're paying for all of our summer school work. You know, when we're going from $25 to $40 an hour, we're certainly doing this so that we can get, our teachers incentivized around helping to support the summer program, too.
Vice President Green?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll get to handsome young men in a minute, but ladies first here. Pretty ladies
You're
first.
going to make him turn red.
Yeah. Hey, Ms. Woolfolk, we talked about how we want to get teachers in and programs that we're using to help getting certified teachers in. If I'm not mistaken, years ago, we we made a position for a recruiting person that we paid a nice salary to. What is that person exactly? What are they doing right now?
Okay, that person is working on those, with those 8 virtual, we put a handout, you should have a handout at your station, but working with those universities and also with the Minority Task Force, trying to get us more exposure with those universities and students, brown students, so we can do more recruiting with that. Also, we went through the process of expanding our 4th through 8th, and she was instrumental with our two other CTA people in getting that approved. So this is a first for us to expand it, 4th and 8th grade teachers across content. So she's busy doing that, and also when getting ready, and they do a Thursday CSI with all new teachers, so once we recruit them to try to retain them, there are activities that they do on a monthly basis and as needed to try to support not only those in the CTA cohort, because we've had up to 5, to help those teachers that we've gotten, and also work with I Teach, Grambling, Southern, LSU. As a matter of fact, we're on a Zoom with LSU today because there is a shortage of teachers. So we're all working toward that one goal.
Okay, good job, Ms. Woolfolk.
Oh, okay, I forgot to tell you, we had the lowest vacancy rate this year too, so we're excited.
Awesome, good job, okay. All righty, good job, Ms. Woolfolk. Now to the handsome young man. What's that? I can say, I really like the freshman academy for 2 weeks, because to me, that's very important. Freshmen coming on campus and learning that campus as to where they're supposed to be at the time they're supposed to be. So if you don't mind, can you just, because I'm kind of visual, explain to me as to how this is going to go so the parent comes and signs the kid up?
No, we will actually, because we know through the rollover of our J-Campus system, those counselors and principals will know who those freshmen are. Matter of fact, early summer.
Okay.
We will send out letters to those families to invite them to come. There will be a link where only thing they have to do is just click on a link to register, and bus transportation will be provided, and then it will run, as I said, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. each day for 2 weeks.
Okay. So basically, we're going back to this online thing we're doing. So
They can call if they'd like to register to come. If the family chooses not to come, we want to know that.
Okay.
And we're going to know that because they don't call us.
Okay.
We're not expecting them. But if a family wants to take us up on the Freshman Academy, we're going to have an opportunity for them to register through the website. They can contact their school office and register just through a phone call, or they can send in, when we send them that letter, they can send in just through snail mail,
Okay.
a physical piece of paper. But the easiest, quickest way, we want them just to click on a link and be able to do that. So that way
Okay.
we have that, but we're going to give them multiple ways to register.
Okay, good deal. I think that's an awesome idea, and I'm hoping we can keep that going, not even after the 3 years.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Great presentation, both of you.
Sorry to cut you off. Ms. Bell,
I saw you.
Okay,
well, you bailed out. I thought you were.
thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you. This is great. It took a lot of work to do this and a lot of thinking, because as a retired teacher of 34 years, I know what it takes. Face-to-face, if I had to vote today, face-to-face is the way to teach. I know we got a new system, and to say that when we first went virtual, we didn't ask for this virus. I'm within 3 months, I had to have more calls by, please get rid of virtual. My children not on this and that. So I will push virtual all the way, and I'm glad. I wish we can go 100% virtual, really. Now, I do have some questions and concerns. You have a question, sir?
Yeah. You said the opposite, I think, of what you meant.
All right. Okay, one thing, your summer program, is it open to all schools, or you just say maybe Walden Hill will have about like 100, and then Turner may have in middle school, 50?
Every
You're
school
not-
in the
But
district.
every school will be open in the system?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
the reason I'm
And
saying
let me add
this,
one
I
thing.
want things,
Yeah, one thing I was going to say too, with the decision of all schools is that regardless of your school, regardless of your economic situation, every child, research is showing, has seen some loss as a result of COVID. So it is important that we build these systems across all schools.
okay, that's what I say. I want some of these things to get out, because I don't want no misinterpretation, and I get a call tomorrow, say what, okay? So that means all schools will be open, okay? Now, let me talk about high school right now. On page 19, you say continue EOC remediation program. That means a high school student that's not ninth grade, if he's 10th, 11th grade, will that consider in helping him to get back on
That-
target or during the summer? Or
That's really our summer school option that we've always provided for a student who fails an EOC. If they want to be, let's say they missed that just by 2 points, and they wanted to come participate in our summer EOC program and retest, we give them that option.
So that means high school would be open. That means that child, 10th or 11th, can come to that high school and get
We will have sites,
sites for them?
yes, ma'am,
Okay.
like we've traditionally done.
Okay, page 21. And I guess I'm just one of them hardcore teachers, but like face-to-face. To me, we didn't ask for this virus. We did not ask for this life we're living right now. We're praying for the end. But to me, if I keep my baby home because of the virus, I agree. I don't need to send him up there to play football or baseball with the same group that I'm taking him from every day in the school. Okay, so I am in agreement with that the reason I can say this to you, I'm going to talk about my own grandchild, who's 10th grade, 11th grade, decide virtual all the year. All I hear now on weekends, I can't wait to get back to Huntington face-to-face. You see what I'm saying? But they thought virtual was going to be this and that. So what I'm saying to you is that I agree, because she could not, you don't participate, okay? So I am with the fact that we need, if a parent is going to make that choice, my choice with my grandbaby, her mother they did virtual, which was good, but she realized now, I want face-to-face. I want to be with my friends. I want to do this. This is one, and it's by choice. But to me, if you're going to keep that baby home all day, then bring that baby to, that's not fair. Because you're keeping him or her from the virus, you say, okay? And we've always, remember, virtual just started, y'all, since this happened. We've always taught face-to-face. So I am with the fact that you're saying, if they go virtual, it's no problem. They just want to participate, okay? So I like that. Page 20, let me see another page. This is for Ms. Woolfolk. On page 29, always asking questions like this.
Yes, ma'am.
I like the idea. I know for a fact that we need teachers all across the nation. We need it right here. This has been going on for the last 10 years, I think, looking for teachers. When you say a teacher must be the teacher of record, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that's the teacher giving grades to that students. We have some teachers that support, that come in and out of classrooms for maybe 30 minutes or 50 minutes according to the IEP, but it must be the teacher that's actually of record giving those grades and giving that instruction every day.
All right, that's teacher grade. You also mentioned that during the summer, and maybe I need to go off this board and start teaching, give me some money, because you don't pay nothing on this board. Look, you're going to give teachers, now this is for the summer, huh, Mr. Burton? You said $40 an hour
Yes, ma'am.
for teachers and 24
For paras, $40 an hour for teachers.
And that's for those 10
24.
days
And their training.
It's a
and
training
the
week.
training. Okay, training may be for a week or so.
So that's going to
Okay.
encourage them to come to the staff development,
That
to
is
bring
great.
their students' data, to be able to work with our teams on building those plans.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll pay them $40 per hour for that, and then when they start the 2 weeks, they'll get that for teaching it as well.
Okay. I need to understand something. Okay, again. a new certified teacher. Please break that down for me.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a new teacher coming from LSUS. You're going to give me a $1,000 signing.
You receive that at your
Okay.
first pay cycle.
What I don't understand, okay, 2,000 per class period. If I teach 4 classes of math that day, I'll get 2,000 every day, every hour?
You get
You'll get
a total of $8,000. It's $2,000 per section.
Let me get
And
off
so-
this board and start teaching. Ms.
now-
Dozart,
now-
let's go back to teaching.
Now, Ms. Bell, the only thing with that is, let me clarify, Ms. Bell, the 1,000 signing bonus is for all new teachers.
Okay.
But the 2,000 per class period is for that middle school and that high school math, Algebra 1, and
Well, I
geometry
lose my
teacher.
job, I can't teach math and algebra, okay? But that is a good thing, okay? And so 4,000 for block classes, what you mean by that?
Okay, you can teach up to 3 blocks, and the block is really like 2 sections
Okay,
of
okay.
math. So you can do that 3 times a day, which would equal 6 sections or 6 periods, if it was a 7-period day. So you can get 2,000 per block.
Let me tell you something. Every day I'm looking at, on Facebook, they recruiting from Texas, everywhere. We need this out in the public quick, okay?
Our applicants, our students in universities are not going, they're not majoring in education, so it
I
is
know they're
a
not.
critical issue.
Okay. This is, I think this is the last thing I want to ask you, but I did see where you, this new program you're trying to get through the Bessie,
Yes, ma'am.
that's April the 20th.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that program is for, oh, no, yeah.
It's our CTA, our Alternative Certification Program, and LDOE has approved it. We got that approval last week. So now Bessie just has to vote on it.
Okay. You also said, you're right, there's some teachers, I mean, some people I've talked to, they're finishing, but they cannot pass that practice. So you're definitely going to try to work on trying, and they miss by, I know one young lady right now, she keep missing it by 2 or 3 points, okay? And she's a sub, a full-time sub, okay, you know. And she's in the math program.
And we're looking
What
at that
is it
because.
can we do to
that-
help her get that?
Right,
And it's not the part in her major.
It's the second, right, the
that-
secondary
that-
praxis is
that
very
hard.
hard. It is very hard. And we have teachers that we can show, long-term subs that have proven track record of showing student growth over 3 or more years. Those are the ones we're fighting for because we know that they can be effective. They have been effective. We just got to work with the state on that.
The last thing I'm going to say this to Mr. Dr. Gorey and all of you. There's a lot of paraprofessionals with degrees. Have y'all started recruiting those
Absolutely.
paraprofessionals? They do have degrees, and they're ready to do something.
And that's what we hit a roadblock with Grambling, and we're going to work through it. It's called Graham Teach Program, and we sent about 30 people, paras, to try to go in that program.
Okay.
But their stipulation that we're hitting a roadblock is that they have to have the associate's degree. It has to be in education, and a lot of our paras have associate's degree, but it's not in education. So that's our roadblock. But we're going to keep working with Grambling toward that.
Okay, and I,
But Ms. Woolfolk, those with those bachelor's degrees, we've always funneled those through our Teach program.
all I can say, this is great work. I'm glad you're using the stimulus money, because really, this is what's going to bring our students back, because I know they lost a year, almost a year and a half, okay? So anyway, thank you so much, and I just want to make sure, Dr. Gorey, these are the things that we need to put in the public, once we vote for it, and if everybody vote for it, to let people know actually how the stimulus money is spent, what we doing. It's all about the children. We're trying to catch up the children. We're trying to catch up these babies who have lost this learning. So anyway, thank you so much. Thank y'all. Very good. I'm gonna apply for a job next week.
Mr. Rao.
Thank you, Mr. Alberton. 2 quick questions. We talked about the virtual. There would be no in-school activities at all. Now, but you said they would go into school to take the tests and things. Will they be associated with all the other students, or will they be separated during that time?
We will provide all of the mitigating factors that we need, just like we're doing this spring, when they're returning to be able to take a LEAP test or an ACT test.
And what is that?
That-
Social distancing and that kind of thing?
That could
Okay.
be, and we're not going to place those that are virtual back into a regular classroom with peers, because that would, first of all,
Defeat the purpose, yeah.
defeat the purpose of that. So what we'll do is just set up alternative testing sites at that school, libraries, our gym areas, where
Gotcha.
we have large settings in order to accommodate that.
Okay, next question. You were talking about the 20 hours for the seniors who failed the end of class test. At the end of that 20 hours, do they have to take another EOC test?
No, but they have to have evidence of growth.
Okay, okay.
And so there are
Who determines that?
who determines that
They had evidence of growth?
that teacher.
Okay. okay.
That teacher.
That's all I had. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Good.
Ms. Thor?
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I just had I think it's been answered already, but the teachers for the Grade Recovery Fridays, just what teachers those would be, and I guess they're just, that'll work out as to, because there are some that don't mind doing that.
Believe me, we have teachers ask us all the time,
Sure.
how can I get these kids back?
Back.
Because they're struggling with those, again, who they know that virtual is not meeting those students'
Yeah.
needs, and if they just had the opportunity to work with them one-on-one, they could get them where they needed to be.
Okay. Also, did we, or is the AB block schedule going to be something that we're doing? Is that
No,
up on the?
it's
No,
not, no.
that's not, okay.
Right, it was a part of early conversations, but
Okay.
as we vetted it through principals, it just didn't survive.
Okay, okay. Let's see, and then also regarding the virtual, I mean, we already have a virtual academy, correct? We have a so we're talking about the virtual for students who need to be home for health reasons or have a family member, and then there's the virtual academy that's like,
So it will be true choice from 9 to
Okay.
12, and certainly any family that feels for health reasons or for virus protections, at that 9 to 12, if they're interested in virtual, we will offer that through our virtual academy.
okay, okay. Also, another thing that, of course, you already know this is near and dear to my heart, are parents going to be allowed on campus this year? Like PTA, is that going to
We
rev
think
back up?
so. Of course, we're working, of course, with our state and regional authorities with that, but we do believe if we continue to receive the vaccine in our state at the levels where we are, we do believe that we'll be at a point in the fall where we'll be at a phase where parents will be allowed to be on campus.
Okay. All right, and then, I guess just for Ms. Woolfolk, do you feel like the incentives is like good to get people?
We feel it's going to
Is it
help.
Adequate?
And plus, we've done some research on some other parishes and what they're doing, and we have to be aggressive.
We
We're
have
going to lose them. We went through this with the oil money a few years ago, and we started getting big hits like at a Walnut Hill, who never had problems, as Ms. Bell said, and we started losing teachers.
Yeah.
And so we need to be aggressive and be competitive with
But it doesn't need to be more.
we think this will get us up. And then plus, we look at how many teachers we hire each year, and we know we have to do for the math. So we want to try it.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Noel?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Burton, I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding. We said we administer provided diagnostics to all students. And we're getting ready to give our students LEAP.
Again, these will not be new tests. These would be end-of-year assessments we would normally give. And when I say these, and I'm hearing groans in the back, and I groan myself when I think about adding new assessments
We're
on.
trying to understand.
We want everyone to understand, we're not adding anything new to students this year. These are diagnostics that many times only take 10 minutes to complete. But if I've not had that student in my school at all, I don't know what their sight words are. I don't know their phonemic awareness. I know nothing. I have no literacy data about them at
So
all.
we're just using this testing for data.
Yes, ma'am. Not
This
promotion.
is not nothing that we're weighing with the state or,
No, ma'am.
oh, Oh, thank
This
you.
is-
See, I
this
had
is-
missed all that. It sort of had me, I was a little
Let
like,
me
oh, we're gonna
clarify,
be-
let me
help
clarify a little bit. You
help
do
me.
know,
Okay.
we are still having full state assessment, and that's something that this board has no control over.
All right,
So,
okay.
the one thing that with that state assessment that kind of goes along with Mr. Rao's question is that all children, regardless of how you've received instruction this year, are required to come on campus to take the test. We're building those safe
Okay.
environments with all the mitigating factors, but those kids are all required to return for that testing.
So all of the children in Caddo will be tested?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. It's overwhelming, I agree.
Oh, but the state will get the data.
They will get the
Okay, I'm
data,
just-
yes.
I'm just-
And I will say, there has been no indication that it
That it
will
will be
not
used?
count. So we're hoping for some type of concession
It's
at
like a
some
windmill.
season.
All right, okay, I ask you that one. All right, now back to, thank you, Dr. Goree, for eliminating right now, the $250 fee for the children. With the freshman academy, when we enroll the babies and bring them into the school site, and you're saying we're giving the parents the opportunity to say yay or nay
Yes, ma'am.
to this, what if we know, the faculty or staff knows that this child needs to be enrolled in the program? Do we sort of focus on the family to try to get them to understand, you need to enroll Terry into the program so that he or she will be able to move forward? Or we just let it?
That's what makes that principal a good principal.
Oh,
He
the-
or she will know who can get to that family. It
Oh,
might be
okay, okay.
that secretary, it may be that bus driver, it may be that
So
counselor.
we need somebody to be able
Yes,
to,
ma'am.
yeah.
And
Okay,
we-
now,
And we're going to not just send a letter and hope they come. We will reach out and be aggressive with them to get them to sign up.
okay, now with virtual instruction, you know, we had some families that we met over the term, and thank you for helping us to get these people, get their students back, enrolled back into the school sites. Now you're saying we're giving them, they have to register for one semester
Yes, ma'am.
in the virtual program.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what if, you know, there's always a curve somewhere. What if we need to figure out a way to get a child back into the classroom? What if the parent gets sick and they can't teach
We
the
will
child?
always welcome that child back into our classrooms.
Okay, because
The
I just
only
want to
thing-
make sure that there's an open door so that we can get the children back into the
What-
classroom if needed.
What we can't have, and it's only because of staffing
Right.
and scheduling, is we can't have that revolving door of if I choose 2
Oh,
weeks
no,
of
no, yeah.
virtual, I go back to
I want to go back and then, no, I don't.
I get upset, then I want to go back and do virtual again.
All right, now, I know that we like the activities, you know, clubs and whatever. And you know, I had a grandson that got caught in that little term, but I lived through it, being a grandmother, you know, I want him to be a great athlete. But if we run into situations where, no, I won't even go there, I'll leave that alone, that's me thinking. Okay, well, I just want to make sure that we try to include all of the children. In my district, we have to, because we've seen that the virtual classes did not work. And I thank you for using CVA, because I've gone over there, and this is another question I had. There are children at CVA that actually likes going on their school site. Now, they will be still permitted to do classes on the site, or they'll be totally virtual?
We are going to transition them from a hybrid, because if we're going to do virtual and do virtual right, then we have to be able to be 100% virtual. Now, if that student needs to come up and see that teacher, sure, we will always allow that. And we're working with Mr. Lacey now on what that looks like, and he's going to be a vital, matter of fact, he's coming this week as we begin working with Mr. Monero to plan all of that out.
Okay.
But we certainly want to make sure, though, that we're able, with their staff, to teach the numbers that are going to sign up.
Well, for some of the children, it was a safe haven, some of the kids that I met that were there, and for us to make sure that they don't have nowhere to be from 8 to whatever time, I just want us to, as Dr. Vincent would say, to highly reconsider looking at making sure that we've got a way that we can make sure these babies are taken care of from 8 to 2 or 8 to 3, whatever time the classes are going on.
Sure.
Because some of them don't really have a home to.
One thing that Mr. Burton's team did do, and thank you, Board, first for being so attentive. I know this has been a long presentation, and certainly thank you to the academic and the HR teams for all of your work. But all of these decisions have come with challenge. And one thing, when we look at a hybrid model and how many students make this cost justifiable, we have had some of those conversations. So we will certainly look back at that data to see what does that look like.
Okay.
But many of the families concerned the virus, concerns with the virus, want to be home all the time. So
Okay.
we'll have
All
that
right.
too.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Bell, I'm not going to hold you to your prior commitment that that was your last question, okay? So I've got you up next. Ms. Bell?
Okay, I'm so sorry. I said, only thing I thought about this, y'all, was the fact that, I just like the fact that we finna spend this money and help people. So that means, Dr. Goree and Rick, that means we gonna hire our bus drivers for the summer. We gonna hire our cafeteria people.
Absolutely.
In all the schools. I love it.
Pay teachers for training.
And
Oh,
everyone's
that's
getting the
what I'm
pay
saying.
raise for summer.
That's all
for
I want to
summer
say.
work.
I just love the fact that what we're doing is putting people back to work.
And
Okay,
we're not
thank you.
buying any new
New-
fancy curriculum. I mean,
Thank you.
we're spending it with our staff.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
And there's certainly
not gonna
is that
say nothing
domino
else.
effect, though, where the teacher rolls down to the bus driver in the cafeteria.
Hold my word. I'm not
Custodians.
gonna say nothing else till we come over with something else. I'm through.
Mr. Little? Okay, I got
Thank you, President Albritton. Just a quick question, and this may be instructive or not, but isn't there a current precedent on homeschool kids and their ability to participate or not in local schools? And couldn't that same rationale be applied to virtual students?
Certainly. And that would still be a choice for any family who selects that option.
But just to clarify, if you are a homeschooled child, you do not have access to plays and to clubs and to athletics in a school?
Yeah, there's a homeschool association that provides many of those activities, including athletics, but they're not diverted back to their traditional homeschool.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Dozart?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Little's statement. I worked in a homeschool for Caddo Parish, and it's working beautifully. I want to compliment you all for doing such a dynamic job.
Dr. Dozart, I'm sorry, your mic's not on. They're asking you.
Oh,
You need to
okay.
pull the mic down. It's on.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do I need to repeat anything? This is just from a teacher, many years of teaching, and we want to expedite this summer. And one of the things I want to suggest, have someone to help with the grading, if you can. Help the individual teachers, because this is what holds back time. It takes time, especially with the math, different types, calculus and algebra and whatever. Need someone to help with the grading. And if it were virtual, I know we're providing chat on virtual, but I want the teacher to emphasize those students who just didn't get it. And they're doing it over and over again, so put it in the chat. And at the same time, I know we have a lot to do, but there should be maybe 12 hours dedicated to answering questions, like a call-in, maybe. Those are just my suggestions. Thank you.
Dr. Vinson?
Mr. Burton, would homeschool be considered the same thing as virtual? Right, so, okay, I just wanted to clarify, homeschool and virtual is two different things, right? Okay. Also, for those who are virtual, can we look at some form of attendance also? Because we have been talking about that, and I'm not an advocate for either, I'm just an advocate for choice.
Amen.
So I think, again, I hadn't seen an attendance policy for those on the virtual model.
We do, actually, there is one that was approved.
Yeah,
So I
it
can-
was very general to me. I do remember some coming out, but it didn't have any meat to it that I remember. But this is my main question. Do we have any after-school, and forgive me for my ignorance, do we have any after-school programming going on? I need a list of those because I want to see if I can get some things going on in my community. And summer programming, I think some I'm sorry about that, maybe some summer programming leading up to this coming year could also help with those students we know having problems.
Yes, sir.
Thank
We can get that to you.
That's a great point, and we do have a list of providers that work with students over the summer. We'll get that to you. Also, too, we'll make sure that there are some resources, and still having some conversations. And again, this is a work in progress, is what I'll tell you. We're looking at some intercession times where we look at some schools are very interested in capturing maybe 2 or 3 days at like winter break or different breaks, looking at some of those type initiatives too. So we'll make sure, well, as we make those decisions, we'll bring, this is not the last time we will come to the board with this topic. It's not everything that we will do. But again, this is a start, and we did feel it important that we get to the board as soon as possible with what we've been able to come up with. That's it.
I don't have anybody else on the board. I do want to thank both of you, though, and, well, not just you, your staff, because I think I fully appreciate all the effort that has gone into these programs. And I do appreciate it. I know on behalf of the board, I'm speaking for everyone, that we appreciate all that extra effort. Okay. Now we're ready to move down to 4.01. Dr. Gorey, would you present the proposed agenda?
Yes, sir, I will. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Item 6.01, personnel recommendation, and there's one there. Item 6.02, personnel transactions report, classified and certified resignations. Item 6.03, there is nothing there at this time. Item 7.01, purchasing, the bids are attached. Item 7.02, capital project, and again, those projects are listed, however, bids have not yet began. Item 8.01, property bus rental requests, we have 2 routine items there. Item 8.02, July Caddo Parish School Board meeting, and this again is our summer meeting where we generally do 1 meeting, and proposing that be on July 20th. Item 8.03, approval of Section J policies, students. Item 8.04, consideration of proposed accelerated Caddo incentive plan, and again, that's based on the presentation that you've seen today. Item 13.01, student readmissions appeals hearing. We do have 3 families, and they are in agreement with staff recommendations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Right. Now, going back over the items, personnel recommendations, any discussion?
Do you want to see if anyone wants to add anything?
Yeah, at the end.
Okay, you go to the, okay, gotcha.
6.02, personnel transaction reports, classified and certified. 7.01, purchasing. We've got one on the Carver property. It's the bid for the hunting and farming on the Carver property. Consent? Okay. Capital projects for the summer. Any discussion?
You can't do anything with it.
Well, it should be on there for next meeting. So we'll leave it open, okay? 8.01, property and bus rental request. July, Caddo Parish School Board meeting for July the 20th. Approval of Section J policies.
There's a no.
No? Okay. 8.04.
I think you had a question, Mr.
I'm
Rochelle
sorry.
was there.
I didn't see your name, Barry, I'm sorry. Question?
Can I ask a question on that part now? Ask a question?
No, we got Mr. Rochelle on the board here first. On J. Okay.
The tons and tons of pages, are there any significant, because I've scrolled through almost every single page. I see some highlighted on different, because there's 6 different attachments, and there's some that don't have any highlights on them at all. Those that don't have any highlights had no changes?
Mr. Abrams. while Mr. Abrams is coming on, this is a part of work that we've been working on since 2013, actually updating Policy J, which
Yeah.
is one of our larger policies, probably next to academics. But Mr. Abrams, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, this, basically, this has been a work in progress from 2013 forward. And we've been working on this with a group, several administrators, and our last meeting also included the Mr. Trammell as the board representative to go over all these policies. If you notice on the first page that's in there, policy, it'll say policies currently in the manual and to be maintained with the new policies. What I did was I went through all the policy, the entire policy manual as written, okay? And compared, we have new policies that are with the board approved since 2013 that were presented by Forethought, along with some policies that we're maintaining in there that are still policy that are good policies. And so those are on the first sheet, starting with JAA, equal opportunity, equal education opportunities. And it says on all those will be remaining in the manual, okay? So those have already been approved by the board recently, okay? After that, you have the attachments, which are all the other new policies that are presented by Forethought as modified by the committee with any changes associated with what's specific to all of them. So the highlights are not anything to say what's important or not important. They're all important policies, okay? So every one of them are important policies. But the majority of them are Forethought policies that were updated all the way through today's date. But you'll see we also have listed in here the virtual policy, virtual discipline policy that's included, that was passed by this board in December. So you have new policies also that are included in here. So they're all good policies, all written policies that were presented by Forethought and somewhat modified. The one things we didn't do, Forethought had recommended that we not have policy JG as with the grid, and believe that it should be something that administration deal with. I disagree with that. I think that the board should approve the discipline policy, and the discipline that is associated is work good for the board to oversee and make certain that the policies are written as to what is actually the committee presents. And so JG will be maintained even though Forethought recommended that it not be included. So the grid will also be included in there. It also, they recommended that on the JECC, the assignment to magnet schools, that those policies be eliminated. All those policies, though, were created as a result of litigation several years back dealing with the magnet schools. And actually, last year, we used those policies to beat off a complaint that was filed claiming that we were not allowing someone to get into Caddo Middle Magnet as well as, and the person ended up going to URI. So that policy in and of itself, I believe, were good policies. And if we didn't have those policies in our manual, I think we would have had a much more difficult time, defending that. So those policies are remaining. So JG, JECC, or the main old policies that are there. The other policies are policies that the board has actually been over on that front page within the last 2 years or 3 years. So they're all the policies that are in the manual. The new policies are some that replaced some of the old policies in the policy manual and updates them. So they are significant policies, though. So, it's up to the board if you want to take some time. We just need to get this thing rolling. Since 2013, it's been a good little while to get this policy manual done on this. But, it's up to the board. If you want to take some time and study them and present it for, the next month, it don't have to be done now, but it'd be good to, to say we got something accomplished. So, in that section, but it has been thoroughly reviewed.
Okay, let me ask it maybe in another direction. I'm on the very first one as I scroll down, and this is for attendance. And just looking down at the bottom of it, it just says revised May 2013. And so basically, this was not changed, and it was just used.
No, that was when you're looking at the policies that are attached, that was submitted in 2013 by Forethought. So it's revised in 2013. That's when they prepared it and sent it. We had a policy that already dealt with that. We just had not adopted it. So this will be the new policy that Forethought had presented. We had an attendance policy already that's under some JE something or other, but it'll be removed out of our manual, okay? But everything that you see that's attached are new policies. Those are new to be added to the policy manual, so they're all new, all the ones that are attached.
Okay, all right, so where it says revised May 2013, whenever we approve it, it's actually going to have that date.
We'll put the new date on it.
Okay,
right.
all right, so.
That was the time that when Forethought sent it, that's their revision time. You'll see that some of the others have 2016 or 2015 or something like that. They
Okay.
sent them in. But some of the policies, like if you look on the first sheet that has the explanation on it, the JCDAA, that was something they submitted while we were in the midst of all of these revisions. So we went in and had the board approve those as they came in. So those policies are fresh and new. That's why I said the
Okay.
ones on the original sheet, most of those have been done in 2017, 18 that you're going to have that's already in the policy manual now as new policies.
Okay, so obviously, there's a lot that are being removed.
Yes.
Is it too much to ask to say, because this is good, we're starting nice, clean, and fresh,
Right.
but I'd kind of like to know how many of them we're removing. Is it very difficult for us to list them like this, or going, this got removed, this is gone?
I could do that. I was trying to set it up for a motion to approve this, That's the reason why I wrote it like this, so we would be able to be clear as to what is actually, I can easily go in and find the ones and say these were removed, the ones that are removed. It's no problem with doing that.
Okay.
But I was trying not to confuse everybody. I want you to see what's new, what's already in the manual, and then the additional ones, and everything else is removed, okay? And I can always provide you with the ones that are being removed, so that's no problem.
Bad thought, don't worry about it. Let's just go with the explanation that's
The intent was to try
here.
to make it simple so that when we get through with it, it goes to IT, and IT will know that leave X ones in here that are going to be staying, then add these new ones, and everything else will be deleted, so it'll be clean. They know what the board has approved.
Okay.
That's the reason why it's done that way.
Well, I'll tell you what, getting it done over 8 years, it's good that we're starting to see a finish line. So, of course, it's a ton of information. Thank you for
Yeah.
answering the questions.
Mr. Little?
Thank you, Mr. President. And this would be primarily directed towards council, but, and forgive me if this has been addressed, but I see policy JDA in here, corporal punishment. I thought we as a board voted against that for removal maybe 2 months ago. And yet it
And I
says
think-
here, continuous in current manual.
Well, I
Am I
think-
misreading that?
I think when I'm saying that, I'm saying in the current manual.
It is to be removed?
No, it's whatever our new one, I think our new one probably prohibits, and I may be wrong. but,
Okay.
It does.
Okay. So
But it may be that the new one that's in our manual, I'll have to double check it.
so
It's that
it's,
our policy says that we don't have corporal
Okay.
punishment anymore.
okay.
Right, when we
Okay.
made the change, that change was
Yeah.
made.
And
in
it
the
was
policy.
effective immediately, so,
Right.
okay, thank you.
I went back and reviewed all of the J policies that were passed during the last several years, as a matter of fact, from 2013 forward, to make sure what the board has approved and to make certain we were putting it back in there. But I'll double check that one and make sure. But it should be one, and it may not be in the manual currently, if it was done, just because IT may not have put it in there, but I know the policy was actually revised, recently.
Okay. So looking at 8.05 or 3, that's my question. Yeah, since we've had the discussion, is there any thought that it should not be on consent? Could we add it to consent? Okay. Okay.
Anyone has any questions,
And then 8.04 was the presentation that we had today.
I'd ask that not be on consent so that we can provide, continue our calculations to provide additional information around cost.
Added info needed, okay. Okay. Are there any other items to be added to the agenda? Oh, 1301, this was the readmission request. We had 3 cases, but all of them have been settled with the agreement of the parents. Okay. Are there any other items that should be considered for the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mail?
The Budget Committee, the Buildings and Grounds and Security Committee met, and we would like to add, to recommend to the board for the April 20th, 2021 meeting, 1, that Carver be approved for demolition with the estimated cost of $800,000, and that the following be put on
for bid,
up for bid,
for sale.
bid property for sale. The 79th Street land at November 2020 appraisal value of $56,700, and Timmons Elementary for $536,000, I believe. But with that amount.
That's bid.
Uh-huh.
It's coming from committee, so we don't need a second. Any
Yeah.
discussion?
That we would add this to the agenda.
Okay.
$530,000.
5:30,
Uh-huh.
okay. We had
Okay.
corrected.
That's correct. No, we're not doing the,
We're not doing it.
that's it.
Okay, that's it, okay. Is there any discussion on that request to add it to the consent agenda?
None.
Okay. All right. And going back over the agenda for the April the 20th meeting, 6.01, personnel recommendations, consent. Personnel transaction reports, 802, consent. 7.01, the purchase or leasing of the Carver property, consent. Capital projects is open for further information. 8.01, property and bus rentals, consent. 8.02, the Caddo Parish School Board meeting for July to be held on July the 20th. 8.03, the approval of Section J policies, consent. 8.04, consideration of the proposed accelerated incentive plan, consent. And oh, I'm sorry. There's other information to be added there.
All right.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
8.05.
So it's not on consent. And then the approval of the Building and Grounds and Security Committee report on consent. Also, there is no items under student readmission.
Okay.
So those are consent, that's a consent.
So it'll be on consent, yes.
Okay.
And so I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
Move, oh, I'm sorry.
You're on.
Okay. I want to make sure you recognize me.
Oh, Vice President, Ms. Green.
Move approval of the proposed agenda and consent agenda for the April 20th, 2021 Caddo Parish School Board meeting as presented.
Mr. Nations?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Would the members of the executive committee please vote? Okay. Now we'll open for a visitors session. Guideline, the Caddo Parish School Board welcomes your input and comments as we poll the audience regarding items that are the subject of the upcoming board meeting. If you would like to speak regarding an item that is the subject of the upcoming board meeting, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You do not need to fill out a card. When it is your time to speak, please step to the microphone and make your remarks to the entire board. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. A time clock on the monitors will help you be aware of your time. When the time runs out, your time is up. It is the board's policy not to respond individually to members of the audience. When appropriate, the board may refer concerns to the staff to be addressed. As this is a public meeting, we ask you to refrain from referring to personnel by name or incident. Thank you. Do we have any visitors who want to speak? Yes.
Jackie Lansdowne, President of the Red River United, 1726 Line Avenue, Shreveport, Louisiana. I was just ask the question about the disciplinary policies that are coming before you. Typically, those go before the committee, the disciplinary committee. We have not seen that. And typically then, after they go to the disciplinary committee, they come to the organizational meeting. That was canceled by administration. And possibly the board's attorney will let us know why he made the decision to bypass that.
Good evening. John Glover, 9100 Walker Road, apartment 121, Shreveport, 71118. I rise to, first of all, thank you for the presentation that you presented, but to let you all know that you didn't give us a copy of what you all were following. And we would ask that you make that available to us, the public I'm asking for. Number two, as going to those disciplinary review committees meetings, I have attended those, and with the reference to policies going as far back as 2013 and not being addressed since then, though you may have approved it, it would be prudent that you bring forth those things that were changed according to what Mr. Abrams has given you all, 2013, 2016, whatever you all are doing that is going to impact not only the students, but parents alike. So we're asking you that you consider that before you actually put your stamp of approval on adopting those, what the attorney has asked you to do. We have had a terrible year this year because of the pandemic, and it has brought a lot of eerie feelings for a lot of people. At the same time, I have listened, and I have had and have been encouraged in some aspects, not in so many others. But we do know that the state superintendent has said that the LEAP scores will not count against the districts. He sure did. He said it. He said they would not. He said they would be used as an assessment for you all to make sure that you know where the children's strengths and weaknesses are. So if he said that, and you're saying that something else, and we need to get clarification on that. He also said that those funds, that second batch of funds you all are supposed to get, 20% of those dollars were supposed to be dedicated to a catch-up learning program. Now, I do remember hearing board member from District 12 mention catch-up, but just to bring to your attention that I am following and I am watching, because it is important to me as a citizen, a grandparent, to make sure that we are indeed giving our children the best we have to give them. We don't have time anymore for justifications, excuses. It's over with. You're going to either produce or we're going to have to do something else. I do thank you for your time and you all have a good evening.
Is there anyone else to speak before the board? If not, do we have any announcements from the board members? Oh, okay. Well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the executive. Oh.
That was a good try, anyway.
I tried.
You tried.
Vice President Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to know, I've been keeping up with some state legislation. We have a state representative here from Shreveport. They are actually getting with the African-American history teacher from Huntington High School and making a policy, if I'm not, or trying to put forth some legislation about how they want African-American history incorporated into our history program. And I don't know which way this board might want to go. I don't know if maybe we need to be in support and do a resolution, but you can bet I'm going to try to bring forth something for you guys to look at here really soon and see if we want to make a resolution in support of this or whichever way this board wants to go. Thank you.
Ms. Thorpe?
Okay, I just wanted to make an announcement that the District 4 Bessie Forum will be held Tuesday, April 20th at 6:30 p.m. in the gym of Broadmoor Presbyterian Church. It's hosted by the Broadmoor Neighborhood Association. So that's 1915 Grover Place. So everyone's welcome.
One more time, the date.
April 20th.
Okay. Mr. Romeo?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say happy birthday, Barry.
Oh, really? What number was that? 25. No, good. Oh, no, I worked hard to get this one. What number is it, man? 61. 60.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I was going to say 16, but I know that would be with a whole lot of experience, okay?
60.
Okay.
God, I've watched you grow up. More out than up. Uh-oh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vice President Green?
Like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made by Vice President Green. Mr. Nations?
Heartily second it.
And we have a second.
Ms. Woolfolk, may I see you?
All in favor, please vote. Notice I said in favor.
All right. Good job, Mr. President.
It went well, I tell you.
Hey, he's